Hong Kong. 7 million people. One of the most densely packed cities on earth. One of the wealthiest financial hubs in human history. Every square foot priced. Every tower named. Progress built on concrete and capital. But on the edge of this city, there is a mountain called Ma On Shan, which translates as Saddle Mountain, named for the distinctive ridge that crowns its summit. It looks like any other mountain. Inside, over 5,400 meters of underground tunnels, bored into solid rock, by hands that no one remembers. Thousands of men descended into this void every single day. They bled here. They broke here. They left pieces of themselves in the stone. And some of them never left. Science calls it residual energy. The locals call it something older. This mountain has a memory, and it has spent 70 years in silence, deciding whether to share it. 1949. China's civil war was over. China had just fought a brutal civil war. On one side, the communists. On the other, the nationalist army, known as the KMT. The communists won, and the men who had fought on the losing side fled south, with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Within a single year, over 1,300,000 people crossed the border. Into Hong Kong, they carried what they could. They left behind everything else. Among them, soldiers, men who had spent 8 years fighting the Japanese across southern China. At Nanting, on the Burma Road, the legendary wartime supply route carved through the Himalayan foothills, where one wrong turn meant a 1,000-foot drop into nothing. They had survived battles that history books barely mention. They had survived the Japanese. They believed the worst was behind them. They were wrong. 1953, a Japanese company came knocking. Nitetsu Mining Company Limited, a Japanese company. The same nationality they had spent 8 years fighting. Now signing their paychecks, they offered technology, capital, expertise. In return, iron ore. Japan was rebuilding after the war. They needed steel, and Ma On Shan had some of the finest grade magnetite on the continent. The men digging that iron out of the rock were the same men who had bled fighting Japan. History doesn't do irony. History does cruelty. But there is a detail this story hasn't told you yet. The transport road inside this mine ran along the edge of a cliff. All the carts loaded with tons of raw iron hurtling downhill. The brakes were a wooden stick. One man standing at the front of the cart, pressing a wooden rod against the wheel. By hand, speed, momentum, life or death in a single piece of wood. As one eyewitness later recalled, if the pressure was wrong, the cart would derail. It would roll. The only men willing to do this job were former Burma Road drivers, veterans who had navigated supply trucks across the most treacherous mountain passes of the Second World War. Because no one else had a nerve, they escaped one war and walked straight into another. Except this time, the enemy had no face, just darkness, stone, and an endless, suffocating cloud of dust. Let's go inside. Every morning, the miners filed in. Industrial cable hoists drag them down, deeper, 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 into the belly of the mountain. They drilled, they blasted, they hauled, and with every strike of the pneumatic drill, millions of microscopic silica particles entered the air, into their lungs, where they would stay forever. But inside this mine, there was a more immediate threat. Twice a year, the mine detonated. More than 100 tons of nitroglycerin explosive in a single blast. The mountain shook to its foundations. The tunnels filled with toxic gas. Before any worker descended, they sent something in first. A canary. If it sound, safe. If it fell silent, danger. If it died, run. As one mine official later recalled, the miners carried their bird cages to work every morning. It was quite a sight. In recent years, hikers near the tunnel entrance have reported something unusual. An old man walking slowly along the old mining road, carrying a bird cage, semi-translucent, never speaking, never stopping. Most people call it a ghost story. You know better now. He is not wandering. He is working, completing the only task that ever mattered, making sure the path ahead is safe. But there is one danger no canary can detect. Silicosis. Silica dust enters the lungs. The body cannot dissolve it, cannot expel it, so it builds, granule by granule. The immune system attacks and forms scar tissue around every particle. The lungs stiffen. The lungs contract. The lungs slowly become stone. In 1991, the Hong Kong Workers' Health Center conducted a study. Former Ma On Shan miners showed significantly elevated rates of silicosis. Their lung capacity, 60% of a healthy adult. No cure, no reversal, no escape. As one long-serving mine official put it, they gave everything to this mountain. Some of them got silicosis in return. That heavy, ragged sound you sometimes hear in the tunnels at night. Now you know what it is. Now, let's talk about science. The iron ore at Ma On Shan is primarily magnetite, not ordinary iron. Magnetite is one of the most powerfully magnetic, naturally occurring minerals on Earth. This entire mountain is a colossal natural magnet. Hikers near the mine have noticed their compasses stop functioning. The needle spinning without purpose, unable to find north. This is not paranormal. This is physics. But this fact leads to a deeper question. In 1972, the BBC broadcast a television film. Its title, The Stone Tape. The theory it proposed has since become one of the most discussed concepts in Western paranormal research. In locations rich in magnetic minerals, particularly those subjected to intense emotional or physical trauma, the energy of those events may be imprinted into the crystalline structure of the rock, like a magnetic tape recording a signal, storing it indefinitely until the conditions are right and it plays back. This is what researchers call a residual haunting, not a conscious entity, not a spirit with awareness or intent. A recording, a loop, an echo of something that once was. No, consider what was recorded here. 70 years. 2 controlled blasts per year. Over 100 tons of explosives each time. The mountain shaking to its core. 5,000 workers every day. The percussion of pneumatic drills. The grinding of old carts. The murmur of men speaking in the many dialects of southern China. Each one a reminder of the home they had left behind and would never see again. The cough, the wheeze, the sounds that no one should carry out of a mine. If the stone tape theory is correct, if this mountain of magnetite absorbed even a fraction of that energy, then what explores here in the darkness is not a ghost. It is a recording, 70 years old, still playing. Science cannot prove this theory. Science has not disproved it either. Today, Ma On Shan is a hiking destination. Paragliders drift above the summit. Below, a new town of over 100,000 residents. Coffee shops, shopping malls, playgrounds. Most of them have no idea what they are walking on. Ma On Shan iron mine, operational since 1906. In the final years of the British colonial era, until 1976. 70 years. Over 5,400 meters of tunnel. 5,000 workers at its peak. And an uncounted number of names that never made it into any record. They fueled Japan's post-war reconstruction. They laid the economic foundation of modern Hong Kong. And then they were forgotten. When the mine closed in 1976, the workers formed a committee. They petitioned the government for resettlement assistance. The response was simple and devastating. In Hong Kong, only officially recognized villages qualify for government resettlement. These men, who had lived and worked on mine land for decades, held no such recognition. They had no legal status. On paper, they simply did not exist. Men with silicosis in their lungs, men with decades of labor in their hands, told quietly that they didn't qualify. And so they left, with their stories, with their scars, with their silence. The next time you set foot on this mountain, step lightly, because beneath your feet, every slab of magnetite may hold a frequency, a sound, a breath, a memory that was never meant to be erased. A single canary call, one note, then nothing. Whether it was real or simply a memory the mountain had kept for 70 years is a question only the stone can answer. For the workers who built a city beneath a mountain, and whom the city forgot,